So hi, my name is Ron Blackburn, and welcome to the Building Trust Podcast, the foundation for lasting success, elevating life, relationships, and business. And this is my co-podcast partner, Stephanie Fagan.
Hello, and welcome. And today we are interviewing Mr. Paul, hopefully I get this right, because he was a little ethnic when he was saying it, Andres. Trudel, Payne. Yeah. Okay, now your bio, when I looked at it, was about 4 pages long, so I'm going to...
Short version?
Yes, go ahead and put in the short version because there's a lot of content in there, but I loved all of it. So home and lifestyle entrepreneur and media source expert, creative director of Casa Consult and Design, interior stylist and designer, business solutions and innovation consultant, strategy, discovery coach, 2-time best-selling author, equality and mental health advocate, I love that part about you, creator and host of Your Mind video podcast.
In Your Mind. Yeah.
In Your Mind. Okay, very interesting.
Is he over?
And an international speaker.
How does he do all this at his age? I don't understand.
I don't know either. Apparently he started when he was 0.
Wow.
Okay, so other than what's Googleable about you, tell us about you.
Yeah, so I just relocated to San Diego.
Welcome.
Thank you. In August.
From where?
From Seattle.
Cool.
So in Seattle, I started by opening a real estate company. And so I've been obsessed with sort of like...
But the real estate company isn't even listed in that paragraph.
I sold it right before I came here.
Oh, okay.
So I'm obsessed with like all things home. And that's how I got started in the industry. So it was real estate and then working with investors and developers to style and stage like listings.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by when you say home? Because earlier you were kind of elaborating about that.
Yeah, so like I've made a shift. So we were talking about starting that real estate company after about 5 years. It had gained a really great amount of momentum, I'd say. Like we had a lot of corporate partners with large companies, so like Microsoft, Costco. And I didn't feel aligned, honestly, like after a while, personally, for me. Mm-hmm. And I know we're talking a lot about trust, and I had to trust myself that that was not the right maybe space that I needed to be at that moment.
I love that. Even though you had a success at it, you still felt like you needed to step back, realign, and trust yourself that that wasn't the right path for you and go a different way.
Yeah, and I think that's I'm not like hey, here's me, everything I do. But I do definitely give myself credit in that I know when I should or shouldn't do this, right? Like I feel very good about finding that within myself. Right. And it was great and it's amazing and it's awesome, but I knew that that trajectory was probably not where I needed to be. So I sold that real estate company, moved down here, and then that's how I started doing this shift of I've been spending all this time focused on home.
Where did that wisdom come from, to knowing that you shouldn't just be there? Because usually it takes people many years to get there.
Heart feeling, gut feeling, where do you...
Yeah, for me it's all gut.
Okay,
so
good.
Everything that comes from me is going to be gut, right? Like I grew up with intense anxiety, so I mean, horrible anxiety.
That's great. I love that you said that because a lot of people feel that, but not many people talk about it. So yeah. I love that you just brought that up.
It's hard. Like you don't know what's going on, mm-hmm. right? I never knew what was going on, but I was in my head all the time. So I was constantly in an interaction, could sit here and remember the words that you didn't use to describe something versus what you did use.
Wow.
Watch the body language,
mm-hmm.
See if I felt disinterest, and then leave that experience and go home and really sit with all the ideas that I thought could have been playing on that weren't actually being played on.
Wow.
Well, you compared like 2 there. They say that like testimonies from people that watched like an accident when cops are like interviewing them is the least reliable because there's 10 people walking away with 10 different versions.
Yeah.
And you're looking for the things they didn't say in between.
Yeah,
right?
it's the perception.
So, yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it was a lot as a child, right? Like and I didn't know why I did that.
How'd you put that on mute so you can just be in the present?
Right, like, and I think that's the hard part to explain to people is I don't put it on mute. I believe me, I wish I could go a day without it. But I found a way to maybe overlook it a little bit, right? Like it happens, I see it, and then I know it's not important and how can I go on to something that's more important, which is about being in the moment.
Right.
Because that's the thing that you give, I think, with living that way, is then you're never in that moment, right? Like my childhood is filled with memories of thinking about things that happened, not necessarily living them.
Yeah, I got a Totally book in there on the shelf. I just finished The New Earth, and it's like, you know, our only power is in now.
Yes. So it took, I think, a little bit of me learning it and just growing up in my head so much. And then I don't know if it's being a descendant of an immigrant or something, but you always have that like hustle and work, and like you have to live up to something. And I've always felt that way, and they never put it on me. But I just felt it would be the only way to honor them. So, you know, like my grandparents are Mexican. They sort of came over here, worked on farms, and my grandma had 11 kids, and she started when she was 14. My grandpa worked till he was 86 in the hops. And I just felt like if they could take 11 kids from Texas to Washington, not knowing English, like $100, and then make this life for us here, like I have to do everything I can to.
Yeah. I'm in the building industry, obviously. And at one point, I think we were around 150 guys, and 149 of my guys were all from Mexico, right? And it's like, what I love about them is they're willing to leave their family and their wife and everything they know, and go out to a new land to try to earn money. That's the top 10%.
Right.
And here in America, we say, give us your tired, your weary, and your whatever we say. I'd say give us your top 10%. And that's what Mexico does. So I love their drive. You know, it's more drive than anything else. You know?
Yeah.
It's all this work ethic, right? And it's work and family. Like those are the two things I think that I took from the culture. And it's what I love most. And then I sort of took that and applied it to business, right? Work, it has to be like really intentional. You have to have a lot of strategy to it, but it has to be authentic. It has to be who you are. And then I think it needs to be about making really lasting and deep connection, which I think goes on your topic, which is about trust.
Yeah, I feel like you wrote a chapter in the book.
Yeah.
I know. But what are you doing? So what are you doing now? So you left Washington, sold your company, and in San Diego, what are you doing now?
I decided to make a shift, and instead of focusing on home, that physical thing that we all search for, I wanted to focus on how do we find home within ourselves, and how can I then even just professionally translate that to a career. So I started In Your Mind podcast, which is I meet with thought leaders and industry game changers and sort of share the story of how they became who they are.
Where can we find that?
On YouTube, on every podcast channel or platform that you can look up, so it's already up there. And what it was supposed to do was like, hey, here's these successful people, but not talk about success. I wanted to talk about how that person had to develop themselves to become who they are today, and then how they then at that point found a way to feel at home with the person that they became. And that I thought would really sort of resonate, especially in our time right now, with a lot of focus on how divisive we can be and how different we are, versus I think the story that needs to be told, which is how similar we all are, and how if we could really just sort of pick up on similarities with each other, I think it'd be a little bit of a different place, hopefully.
So did you see a common thread with your guests and what they felt and how
I think the common thread I've seen is that, you know, everyone knows that there's trauma everywhere, right? There's hurt everywhere. And I think what I've noticed, and in particular with people that have achieved a level of success, is that it is not a game plan. It is not a like 15 strategy, guess what, you end up there. There's the uniqueness that is that person. And I think you have to pull from who you are and apply that directly. And that's, I think, the disconnect, is that can you actually authentically put yourself into that role, authentically connect with that client. I was here in the audience listening to you guys talk with Eric, and one of the things I used to teach with my real estate company, and I teach now as a consultant, is you have to be willing from day one to say no. If you can't say no, then you will not be successful.
Yeah, in the building industry, we say some of the best jobs we ever had are the ones we passed on.
Yeah, and for me, it's about energy. Like, if I say yes, and I know in my heart and my gut and whatever, that's not a good fit for me, I've invited that negative energy here, and all it's going to do is poison what I already have.
Yeah, and many times I'll take a step away from that because I'll feel that negative energy and go, let me just, check our schedule and see if this works out for us, if this is the right fit,
Yes.
and then give it some time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it might be that moment, that weird feeling you're going through that day, unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to give it a little time to check. But ultimately, you're usually that first gut stinks more often than not, right?
Yeah, and I think I have a design company now and consulting and coaching, and in both of those, plus in your guys' home industry, plus in real estate, right? It's all the same. When you first start, it's about how do I make that sale? And I think that's great. That's a great drive to have, but that will not be sustainable success.
With all those companies, do you have any downtime? You're pretty busy.
I don't like a lot of downtime, but I do. I have a 4-year-old son, so he's the downtime.
Okay.
And then
I love that you say a 4-year-old son is the downtime. That's more energy than anything.
More downtime.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I just am like, I want to keep busy. And I mean, that even goes to like what we chatted about living with that anxiety, is it doesn't go away, but I know I can distract myself. And I can use what I think are negative parts about it in a positive way. Like, that's how I can do business consulting and coaching, is if I can evaluate things really quickly, because you walk into that room and you already know you're anxious, I can usually create a different plan or strategy for how we can execute something. Or I can be a little bit more innovative with an idea, a concept for like referrals, or how to up the sales team and optimize them. It's a different mindset because you're looking for all the weaknesses already, or flaws. And so it comes, I think, a little bit faster. So I can rely on it there, and then I just found a way to push it away in my personal life, because that's really where
That's great. It's a lot of control.
Yeah, it takes a lot. It takes like a daily practice of a lot. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about all the, I hate to use the word charity, but all the work you do for so many people that,
Yeah, so
passionate.
yeah, I think
I was impressed with that the other night. So
I got really, when I did the podcast, I think it really taught me, like, hey, I'm here telling everybody's story, but I still wouldn't tell mine. And I think that's where it sort of started, is like, I think I should talk about the stuff that I've gone through. And so it was mental health. That was a big one for me. And I wanted to be a really big advocate for mental health, and especially for men in particular who, it's like half of men who even suffer from it never even speak about it. And then just pulling also for myself. So it seems selfish, but it ends up helping other people. But I'm like pulling for myself and thinking like, okay, if I'm gay, let's look at those statistics. And in that community, it's like 70 or 65% of LGBTQ plus people are going to struggle with mental health. The homeless population in that community is staggering compared to any other community. And when I moved to San Diego, I actually started noticing there is a homeless population here, and every city has it, but it was uniquely different than any other city I had been to, in the fact of there was a lot of these younger homeless people, and they were all at the park all the time. And
When you say younger, about what age group are you talking about?
I mean, I'm the worst with age, but I'd say like some of them look 16, and I would say early 30s. But so many, and I was like, not that many people hang out at parks.
Right.
Just like all the time. And so I started asking around and figuring out what was going on, and it became apparent that was like a big sort of sub-society here, which is this young gay men who come here and don't have anything, and they end up homeless. And it makes sense. Everyone wants to go to California, right? So all these people moving from the Midwest and Middle America are coming here, and then they can't make it, and they have to find a way to make it. And that sort of led me into this whole process now, which I'm writing about, which is what we talked about the other night, which is coming out as a gay person is so different than you see on TV, right? It's rare. I don't know at least anyone who went out and then all of a sudden there was a party. Or
there's not?
Yeah, like it didn't happen, and for me, it's like that's actually where I can pinpoint a lot of change happened for me. Like I came out, didn't know anybody, because I spent 18 years pretending to not be that person. So the last thing I'm going to know is people that are like that. And then I moved to California, and I thought that's the place to do it. And I think, and what I talk about in this piece I'm writing now is like, when you go out and you're vulnerable and you're young, you're searching for a community, right? You're searching for
Absolutely.
a tribe,
Yep.
and you don't get it. It's just not there, especially when you're young. Like, we can't go to a bar. We can't go and meet these people. So the only place I can go, it's different. You know, when I was around, there was not all these gay acts everywhere where you can meet, but even that I still think doesn't necessarily help. Anyways, like, you just can't meet people. And so what I found is these, and I hate to pinpoint it to one race, but older white men that really sort of, I think, have picked up on there's all these young boys out there that don't have a community, so let me build that for them. And that turns into
To the point of a
dynamic.
predator mentality or like a father figure mentality? What are you seeing?
I think I see both. So
Okay.
I've spent literally like nights for the last couple of weeks talking to people and like taking them out to breakfast or for coffee at like 4 in
When
the
you
morning.
say people, you're talking about these
Homeless,
young
yep,
homeless men that are in the
exactly.
park.
And just getting to feel like what I hate the idea of we look at people that are different than us and say what's wrong with them instead of asking like what happened to them.
Right.
And I think
Or
if we
what's wrong
can-
with our culture
Yeah, like,
that we let this happen
exactly.
to them.
Like, I think there's a story there and we need to learn that story. And so with them, I just wanted to get an idea of like what happened to you. And it started to turn into, wow, this seems like it's happening to a lot of people. And it felt similar to mine. I wasn't homeless, but it was like, yeah, when I came out, it was the people that were coming after me were all these old white dudes that were like, here, come here, and you can hang out and drink. And just a really weird.
Did you get kind of
like,
I'll save you kind of vibe?
Yes, very much. And
you're right. This is your book.
yeah, it's going to be. Yeah.
I can't wait to read it.
I know, I'm very excited to read it. I love your
It's weird how your
style.
whole perspective on a culture or something you know nothing about is instantly changed by information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Information is everything, but if you don't have that information,
And that, I think, is
it's
the
all big.
beauty of like what you guys are doing, what I do, like this podcast. I tell everybody, my goal with that podcast has nothing to do with money. It's literally just something fun that I like to do. And the hope is that someone listened who maybe thought, I don't like gay people, or I don't know a gay person, or a Mexican person, or whoever, but listened and found out, like, God, I think we might be similar in this one aspect. That little spark, I think, is what changes things moving forward.
You know, totally not related, but still kind of the same type of thing as when I watched the movie Straight Outta Compton. My thought was, okay, the songs are about encouraging this bad behavior. And when you find out that they're just reporters and they're writing in poetry that this is our life, it's a whole different perspective. So you watch a movie, within 2 hours later, your entire perspective changed. Nobody knows the answers to what you know now. So I can't wait to read that book.
Yeah, I think I'm, obviously we know I'm Mexican, but I'm biracial, so my dad's white, my mom's Mexican. And when you grow up that way, you already are like, where do you fit in? So I think that helped me, what you were talking about with that, like, different perspective, is I didn't have a way to not have a different perspective. It was just like there all the time.
And that's tough because with the Mexican culture, there's not just, you're not just the man, there's a machismo that you've got to play, you're this role.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you think or what you feel, this is the role that you're playing in your community, in your family, and it had to be challenging when you did decide to come out to talk to your family. And
Fun word to say too, machismo. I like that.
It was.
there are no nachos involved.
It was.
That's like waterboarding in Guantanamo Bay. Sounds like a lot of fun if you don't know what either word is.
Waterboarding sounds great right now. It's nice and cool.
Sorry.
No, you're right. It was a challenge. I'll say that. I got very lucky. I'm one of 4 boys, and with my brothers, they could care less. Like, it was nothing. My dad actually, I hate to say this out loud, but I did tell him because I was like, oh, this will hurt him. I mean, that was the truth. Like, I was like, I'm gonna hurt you. We didn't have a great relationship. We are good now. And he just cried and ruined it for me.
So he hurt you, but
yeah,
damn it, he accepted me!
So, like,
we're talking about expectations.
Let's get him on the call right now. Let's get him on the call.
And then when I told my mom, she was the most upset. And so I think it didn't last long, like a week. She took a week. And then we didn't talk
It's
for
a pretty short refractory period. I mean,
Yeah,
it could
like,
be years.
Years, right? And like,
But still no party.
No party, no party. I think she watched Oprah.
We should start. Why don't we start parties? Why don't we do a party out? You're ready to come out?
Believe me, like,
get people to show
That's a
up.
good idea. I like that.
literally
You got
thought about
supporters.
what can we do for that, because it needs to be, I think, some
Okay,
kind
well,
of
I think we
celebration.
you figured it out.
That's
So
it.
I like that.
It needs to be something
It's a
like.
party
It
out.
should be anyone that finally has the self-realization of who they are.
Yeah, and your realization that
It
you've
is
been hired.
dynamic.
Yeah.
Celebrate it.
It's hard with, I think, a lot of gay, and I can't speak to women, but like gay men in particular, like you lived an entire life pretending not to be who you are, and all of those people that you're going to tell, you risk losing.
Right.
And
Every single one of them
we've-
individually.
We've advanced a lot. I think, you know, there's every TV show has a gay character. That's amazing. But the reality is, like, there are tons, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people weekly that are being thrown out of their homes and
Yeah.
being ostracized essentially from anything and everything that they know. And where do they go?
In a sense, you go from having a family to kind of a foster kid because you're just kind of kicked out. It's like, okay, well,
Yeah.
this one event changed everything.
And it's just, yeah, I know it's like I feel like we're covering a lot, and that's just how my
I
head
love
works,
that.
But it's I think connected. For me, it's always connected. It's just like there's a lot of different facets to everything, but they all mean home. Like all these people are still searching for home. They all want to find that safe space, and that's what I loved about doing real estate is I got to be part of that moment in someone's life of they got that safe space. They found that place where they were going to build. And like when I did business, we never were allowed to put numbers on the wall. It was just families. Like I only wanted to know how many families we were helping, not what our sales were.
Right.
That's
Like,
awesome.
you know, I think it changes, I think, the focus, right? And
Absolutely.
what we attract. Same thing with design. I can build that safe space for them with coaching and consulting. I'm either helping them build this business that is creating a culture that's going to be safe for these people, or helping clients or developers or whoever build a home that's going to be sold to help that person be safe.
I feel like there's so many more stories that you have, and we don't have like enough time. But where, if somebody wants to know more about you, could they go to find? Do you have a place with all these stories and places?
There's going to be.
Okay.
So right now I have CasaConsultandDesign.com.
Casa?
So that's where everything lives now. I'm about to release, it's just going to be Paul Andres, so my first and middle name.com, which will have everything on there.
We don't need the accent over the E, it's all right.
No accent. But I mean, I want to create, like, I have a lot of, obviously,
That's Andres for
stories.
the gringos that are listening.
Yes, A-N-D-R-E-S. It'll be all the stories and all the media and stuff like the show.
When do you
know.
anticipate your book coming out?
Oh man, that's a fun question.
And you said you're writing every word
January
yourself,
15th.
right? So that's
Yeah.
time-consuming. I
Yeah.
applaud you for that.
Yeah.
And you've got 2 other ones, so you've already released.
Yeah, like I'm part of this, it's called One Habit, the One Habit book series, and so I've been a contributor for that, for 2 of them. I think the 3rd one's coming out about bullying soon, so like I'm in that one. And then on the side I was trying to work this. So the story about the young boys and that culture of society of gay was originally I was just going to pitch it to a editor that I've worked with before for Sean DeLand, and I might still do it, just like a short little essay or something, but I think that has to be part of this book that I'm writing. It seemed too big, and I think it was bigger than just, oh, these are homeless youth. I think it really came down to like, actually, what happens with people after they come out. That's where I found the similarities in everybody, is that they were left alone, and that's how these people sort of got them.
Well, can we get you back on the show when your book's out?
Of course, yeah, anytime.
I'm excited to listen to your
Yeah,
podcast
me
as
too.
well.
Thanks. Yeah, you have to
You'll
tune in.
have
It's
great
fun.
information.
I love doing this stuff.
Well, thanks for coming.
Yeah,
It's
thanks
awesome.
for having me, guys. Easy.
Dude, we have your book title. And I just texted you to introduce you
I
to
gotta step outside.
my publishers.
Oh yeah,
Thank you.
Safe
Both of
Space.
us, different days.
Safe space. That's good.
You said
I
it,
like
safe
that.
space.
You
safe
said
space,
like
safe
5
space.
times.
I like that.
love
Wow,
that
I didn't even
book
pick
title.
up on that, but
Yeah.
he said it so many
Safe
times.
Space is your book title, man.
That's good, I like
huge.
that.
Because you're
I love that. That says a
you're
lot.
creating a
Yeah.
safe space for these
Yeah.
people.
Whether it's for their voice.